few guys there.
Just bear with me as I mute everyone. I thought it automatically would have done that, but it didn't. Brandon, you still... All right, so Brandon, I believe your audio should be on, and Laurent, your audio should be on. Was that correct? Can I hear your lovely voices?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you can.
Awesome. All right, let's give it. We have 10 people in the Zoom. We're supposed to have closer to 20, so let's just give it another minute or two, and then. So I want to thank everyone for coming. My name is Coach Mitch Harris. I'm with the goalie doctor outside of Philadelphia. I have with us today Laurent Lavigne from Montreal. He and I just went through a virtual skate, socially distanced approved skate. Obviously, me being in Philadelphia and him being in Montreal, that's as socially distanced as you can get pretty much. So he might be a little tired because I kind of bagged him a little bit. All right, you good?
Don't worry about me. Don't worry about me.
You're good? Okay. And then we've got a very special guest. We've got Brandon Tebow. You probably know him better as IQ Goalie. He has kind of taken the goalie world by storm on Instagram. He is a wealth of knowledge. So what I want to do is, because I know you're not all familiar with all of us, so I just want to do a very quick intro. Brandon, why don't you start? Let's give us a little who you are, why you do what you do, how you got to doing what you're doing, and then we'll turn it over to Laurent.
Sure. So yeah, just quickly, thanks for coming on, guys. Good to see you all. So my name's Brandon. I'm from Canada, New Brunswick, actually, in Canada. If anyone knows where that is, I'll give you $5. Now I'm in Nova Scotia, Canada, and I'm going to school at Dalhousie University, doing my master's degree there. And so I was a goalie my entire life. Played in the Q over here in the CHL. Played university for 4 years and did a degree there, and then that's what brought me here to this point. So and then I guess the story behind starting IQ Goalie and all that is just kind of mixing the what you learn at school, but mostly things that are available and that have been studied about coaching and about sports science and things that we don't always talk about in goalie schools or in a sports setting. So it just started with my local camp here that I coach at. We started doing classroom sessions and exploring those topics and things like that. So it just kind of transferred over to that. So, but yeah, that's about it for me. That's all my intro is.
Okay, Laurent.
What's up, guys? I see a lot of familiar faces over here. But no, basically, I've been playing goalie my whole life too. I was playing in the school leagues, and then I kind of figured out it wasn't really going anywhere, like the playing side of things. So I started coaching about I think it's seven years ago now, and the school 2 years ago. Yeah, so about that, and then yeah, just loving coaching guys, and seeing them get better every day. And as we say, hard work pays off, so that's good. No, but that's about it. Been coaching midget for the last 2 years now. We'll see what happens with next season. Like it's so who knows what's gonna happen. So we'll see what happens. And no, that's about it for me.
Okay. I'm Coach Mitch Harris. I'm with the goalie doctor outside of Philadelphia. I see a lot of new faces, which actually, a lot of this is pretty cool stuff. We're connecting with people from all over. Last week, I did a virtual skate on Wednesday. I had goalies from Maine, Ontario, Newfoundland, Philadelphia. I think I had one from Michigan. So it's really a cool opportunity to really connect. And that's what social media also does. It gives us that opportunity to connect, which is how I connect with these two gentlemen as well. I'm a little bit of more of a unique story. I did not grow up playing hockey. Back in the old days, I mean, I'm older than these two guys. I'm in my late 40s. I hate to say it, but I'm young at heart. Hockey wasn't that big. I mean, now, in Philly, there's probably, 15 rinks. When I grew up, there were probably 2. And hockey just wasn't a big thing. It was baseball in the spring. It was soccer in the fall. It was basketball in the winter. So I was always a fan. I played street hockey. I loved hockey. I was always a goalie in street hockey and whatnot. And it wasn't until my son, who I believe joined this call a couple moments ago, late as usual. Yeah, hi, Rhino. When at the age of 38, I decided I wanted to play. And I did not want to be a guy who just kind of went out there willy-nilly and tried to figure it out. I went out and got a goalie coach, Tim Andre, outside of Philadelphia. And I took lessons from him. And the first lesson, he basically said to me, he's like, hop in net. I have no idea what you can do. Go ahead. So I'm like, all right. So I get over to the net, I get in, and he starts shooting on me, and I have no idea how I'm doing. I really don't. A couple of minutes go by. He's like, are you kidding me? Are you joking? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, you've never done this. I'm like, never done it. First time in pads. First time in full pads. And he's like, somehow you've learned. And I'm like, well, you learn by osmosis. You learn by learning. You learn by watching. And that's what, as young goalies, you do. You emulate your heroes, right? You emulate, whether it be a Brodeur, whether it be, Tuukka Rask, whether it be Johnny Quick. We all adapt, and we learn that way. And that's pretty much what I did. A couple of years ago, I went to Matt Tendler, the goalie doctor, and who my son would go to as a goalie coach. And I basically said, I have this idea for this program. I want to start coaching. And he brought me in, and it just morphed into this amazing thing. And 4 years later, I'm a college goalie coach, guys. I'm a D3 goalie coach for Bryn Athyn College. So for anyone out there who tells you can't achieve your dreams, tell them to go screw themselves, because there's no way you could tell me 4 years ago that I'd be a college goalie coach now. Going to high-level goalie camps, stop at GCG, which has anywhere from the top Bantam goalies up to professionals. So I did a USHL development goalie camp last year with the Lancers. So guys, I don't care how old you are. I don't care where you're starting. I don't care if you're a B hockey player now. Don't let anyone tell you can't do what you think you can do. So I'm going to leave it at that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to open it up. I'm going to go to, Brandon, why don't you lead us off with a topic that he picked. And guys, I don't want this to be a lecture. So if you have questions, there's an option for a chat. Put some questions in, and at appropriate times, we'll jump in and answer those questions. So Brandon, the floor is yours.
Perfect. Yeah, no, just to echo that, if you guys have questions, just throw them in and Mitch will pop them up and we can talk about it. But basically what I wanted to talk with you guys about today is just something super general and something that we talk about all the time at our camps out here, and that I know these guys are really smart about. And that's just kind of the way that you're practicing. And whoever your coach is, whether it's someone else or whether it's these guys here, you can talk about these things with your coach and make sure that they are aware of them and make sure that they know that there are ways to practice that will make you learn better and ways to practice that will make you retain what you've learned a little better. Okay. And this is all based on some pretty cool research that's been done for years and years. It's nothing new at all. Just basic sports science. So the 4 or 5 things I want to talk about, like I said, if you want to have a question about either one of them, throw them in. The first one would be deliberate practice. So I don't know if anyone has heard of deliberate practice before, but it's very, very simple. It's very straightforward, but it's something that you should be aware of. And maybe you could look into it a little more after this call too. It's basically an example of non-deliberate practice would be if you're doing some hand-eye drills and you're kind of chatting with a friend while doing that hand-eye drill. We do that all the time. I know that we do that at my camps. We see it all the time at other camps. It's very normal, but deliberate practice is if you watch, just go on YouTube and check out a pro goalie skate or an NHL practice, and you watch those goalies go through their drills, and they are 100% engaged in what they're doing. So following all the next points that I'll bring up, that's how we do deliberate practice. So that's very important. So keep that in mind as kind of an overarching premise. for all these ideas. So like I said, just a few things, but the first thing I wanted to talk about was distributed practice. So something that we actually know is that as coaches, if we were to give you something to do that you want to get better at, for example, if you want to get better at juggling, because that helps your hand-eye coordination and spatial awareness and all those things, the best way to do that is actually through distributed practice as opposed to mass practice. So what's the difference between those two things? The difference is that distributed practice is little short spurts of juggling multiple times throughout the day, instead of, I'm going to juggle for 2 hours right now and I'm going to get super good at it. There's lots of research to show that if you do it for multiple spurts throughout the day, you'll get better results and you'll get better for a longer time. Okay, does that kind of make sense? I know you guys aren't mute, but you can nod your heads. Cool. So that's just the first point. The second point, which is probably the one that's most important to me, is specificity. So if you're doing a hand-eye drill, or if you're doing something even on the ice, the closer you can get to being specific to what you're doing in a game is what's going to make you better. All right. So if you are something that we see all the time is goalies off the ice doing lots of hand-eye drills, maybe throwing a ball against the wall. But, some drills, you can't wear your glove. We all know that. Some drills, that's not the purpose. But just playing catch or throwing a ball against the wall and not wearing their glove. And that's something I'll talk about multiple times. But just an example of being as specific as possible to what you're doing on the ice. Because I don't know if you guys probably follow Maria Mountain a lot on and what she does and everything on Instagram. And she talks a lot about if you're catching with your bare hand, you're catching in the palm, it's much different than catching with a glove on because you're catching up here, right? So there's a good 2-inch difference there in everything you're doing, which is not as specific as we'd like it to be. Does that make sense? Yeah? Cool. So a couple more points. If you guys don't have any questions, that's totally fine. Is the feedback. So if you're talking about feedback, often we're doing drills and we have a coach there with us. Sometimes we don't. Okay, so there's 2 types of feedback when you're doing a drill or learning a skill. And the first type would be internal feedback. So coming from your body, what you feel, what you're experiencing. And the second type would be coming from a coach. So internal feedback is great when you're first learning something, when you're first learning how to do something. But the external feedback that comes from your coach is really, really important as you begin to get better and as you refine that skill. So the external feedback, and you guys can talk about this with your coaches, and I'm sure these guys know about this for sure, but there's something called bandwidth feedback. So you're only going to give feedback if you're a coach, if you are within a certain bandwidth. So what does that mean? It means that if you do a drill and you completely bomb it and you're absolutely awful, as a goalie that you were awful. You're very aware of that, right? So a comment from the coach can actually hinder you more than help. Okay. If we get outside that band of where a comment is acceptable from a coach, it's a lot more of a nuisance than anything else. Similarly, if you do something perfectly and you did it perfectly, but you get a comment from your coach, then that's something that we don't want either, because you've gotten, you guys know how it is. You do a drill, you do it perfectly, and then your coach might say you did something wrong, or you have a good result and then your coach gives you something that you may have done wrong. We know that might not be helpful either. So talk to your coaches about that. Because I know that for me growing up, I had a lot of coaches who talked to me nonstop after every rep, every drill, all the time, right? Which is okay, but it's a little better to have that bandwidth feedback. So explain them that. Does that make sense to you guys? Pretty good? Yeah. If you have questions about that, pop them in there. So the last one, I guess, the last point that I wanted to make that anyone can apply anytime is the thought of blocked practice versus variable practice. Okay. Blocked practice, for example, would be something, again, that's good if you're learning a new skill, but I'm sure that you've probably been goalies for a while, so you're not learning everything for the first time right away. When that's the case, we want to learn a little bit more in a variable way. So block practice would be if I'm learning how to track the puck, okay? When we think of tracking, we always think of the glove, right? But we actually track everywhere. Down low, blocker, into the chest, off the forehead, doesn't matter, right? We track everywhere. So what you should be thinking about is when you're doing your tracking drills, are you doing repeated shots to the glove nonstop all the time from the same shooter, maybe all practice, and then stopping that, going to the blocker and doing about 25 to the blocker, and then stopping and moving on? What that does is it gets you very, very good in that situation at making glove saves in practice with a coach, and it makes you very good at making blocker saves in practice with a coach. But what it doesn't do is transfer as well to a game when the shot could be anywhere. Okay, that's why variable practice, so maybe shooting one to the glove, one down low, one to the blocker, one to the other side, all the time, varying those small things is super, super important, just for that principle of transferring to the game. Okay, so you can see that all of those things, just a few things, but all of them, the thing they have in common is how we can practice and make our practice just a little bit better and transfer that better into a game. Okay, and this goes for any sport, volleyball, badminton, doesn't matter what it is. So just a few things for you guys to think about. And if you have questions, you can pop them in. If not, then I'll let Laurent take over.
Rolling the yard there, I like it. By the way, for the guys that don't speak English in here, because I know I have a few guys that are not very comfortable, maybe, writing English. Write your questions in French, I'll translate. It's not a problem. Anyways, so for the guys that, I've trained in the last few years there, know, and they know exactly what I'm going to be talking about because I talk about it so much. I'm basically going to be talking about tracking and opening up and stretching and saves. Okay, and this is something that I find a lot of goalies do, and I know it's a technical aspect. We kind of went in the the science part with Brandon, which is great. With Brandon. But I'm going to go a bit into the technical aspect, which is basically the tracking part, the opening up and the stretching and seats. So what I mean by that is tracking is kind of, it's complicated, right? You have, and IQ actually made a post about this, and you could see so many different definitions of what tracking is in basically the comments from different coaches, right? And it's 100% normal. But basically, my definition of tracking, if you didn't see the post, is basically that it's your whole body movement to basically reach that puck and make it as easy as possible. So it's not just following the puck with your eyes. It's basically like following the puck with your whole body, right? And when you talk about that, you can see a lot of guys opening up in their saves, which means, like, let's say the puck would be coming about here and they would go like this instead of leaning a bit and getting their blocker in front of their body. So you would hear like a lot of guys, all of you in practice have heard, keep your gloves in front, make your saves in front of your body, blah blah blah, right? You've all heard that before. But then you gotta understand the why, because it's so true. But you have to know why that is so important, and it all goes basically back to your stance, right? If you open up, it goes back to your stance. Is your stance correct? Is your stance in the best, basically for your body? Is your stance? Are you comfortable in your stance, right? Are you too wide? Because if you're too wide, then you build up tension in your body, right? Are you not too wide just with the lower body, right? Upper body, you're too wide. You like this. And actually, Rhino as well, when you came out to Montreal, I think we talked about that a bit, right? And it's all like a pyramid, right? If you start working on your stance, then, step by step, things are going to start getting better, in movements, tracking and all that. But basically tracking, the opening up thing, is you, by not opening up and by shifting and not stretching and saves, you basically make your life 100 times easier every time. And it's very important that right now you understand that I'm not talking about every single save you're going to make in a game. Okay. I mean, this is like textbook, right? We're kind of talking textbook. In a game, it's different. You do what you got to do. But then in a controlled situation, you want to try to make a good and controlled save. And then in a desperation situation, then you do whatever you have to do. And all the guys that are here, right, that I know, I've heard the speech 100 times maybe, but it's so important. And the thing is that a part of the game, you try and work on it, and it's not going to happen in a week. And I think Cusson could actually agree with me on this. It doesn't happen in a week. We actually worked. Cusson was the goaltender for the Espoir this year, and I got the privilege to coach him every 3 days a week, basically. So, but we basically worked on that for about pretty much the whole season. You know, like it was always something that we were trying to get better at. And you know, you never kind of master, but if it's something that if you can master, if you can understand and do right, then you have a step on other goalies, because it's going to help you with your rebound control, and rebound control is one of the most important things at high levels. So, and then we could get into the talk of rebound control, but then, I mean, I could go on for hours about this, but I think I'm going to leave it at this. And again, if you have any questions, like if I wasn't very clear about some parts, let me know. But no, I think I'm going to leave it at this. But basically, the whole point of this is tracking is not only with your eyes, but with your whole body. And you want to try to stay tight, not open up and stretch and saves that you don't have to, because then everything is harder from there. Your recovery is going to be harder. Your whole save is going to be harder. Your head movement is going to be harder. Everything's going to be harder. So you want to try to keep it as simple as possible. I think I'm going to leave it at that, because again, I could go on for hours about this stuff. So I'm going to throw it on to Mitch over here.
So actually, I think it's interesting you talked about tracking. A little bit of trivia. I'm sure everyone is familiar with Justin Goldman and the Goalie Guild. He put out a book a couple of years ago, the Elemental Table of Goaltending. Put out a book. Do you have it?
I think I might.
I couldn't find my copy. As you were talking about, I should have had my copy available. But in that is everyone, there were definitions of all the elements, and it just so happens that yours truly did the definition of tracking. So if anyone has that book, feel free to see what my definition of tracking is. If Laurent can find the book, then he can read it. But yeah, I couldn't find mine either. I wasn't prepared as well. You know, shame on me.
You gotta throw that on me though. I was trying to. That's fine.
You know, if my kid was here, maybe he could go upstairs and look for it. But my kid's not here right now. So I'll take over for a couple of minutes here, and I don't want to go crazy on this, but for those that don't follow me, ever since the whole pandemic started, I have made it a mission of mine to give goalies something to do. And every day since this has started, I've posted a hand-eye drill on my Instagram page, and it gets boring to do the same tennis ball drills over and over again and racquetball drills over and over again. So I'm trying to come up with, no, that's not it, but thank you. It's all good. Don't worry about it. I'll give them some homework. They can find it first. I'll tell you what, the first person who finds the definition of tracking in that book and sends it to me via DM on Instagram, I have a vector ball for you. Ooh. So there's a little challenge for anyone who wants a free vector ball. Find that definition, post it on your story on Instagram, send it to me, and I'll get you a vector ball. There we go. Contest off the bat for everyone who's participating. But Jacob, so the book is it's the Goalie Guild's the Elemental Table of Goaltending. Justin Goldman has put out a couple of books. He put out The Power Within. He did Embracing the Grind, and then he put out the Elemental Table of Goaltending. So
I think they're all gonna go looking for it. So I mean,
that's fine. You know what? Goldman gets a couple of books out of it. He can thank me for it. So anyway, so as I digress back to my point, it's been my mission from day one of this whole thing, and to keep my mind going too, because honestly, everything that I'm doing is for me as well. I hate to be selfish like that, but I'm gonna be, because it's so easy with so much free time on our hands for us to kind of lose track of things and kind of go into a funk. So I really use this time to kind of get my creative juices going and come up with different drills that you can do at home that are very simple, most of which you probably have at home, the things that you can do these at home. If not, I've made it a point to use items that aren't expensive, because I know what a hardships that some parents are going through. Some parents might be out of work or a pay reduction. So I don't want to go out and suggest go get $300 pair of strobe goggles. I don't want you to go out and get a $400 pitching machine. I want you to come up with things that you can do at home with inexpensive items or stuff you already have lying at home. So, I mean, really simple. I use a lot of tennis balls and racket balls, and I also use lacrosse balls, and they have their different purposes. I'm a big believer in playing with a purpose, practicing with a purpose, and understand what you're trying to accomplish. As Brandon kind of said, when you're going through your practice, when you're going through the drills, there's a purpose with them. And I try to, when I can, make it goalie specific. Sometimes it's just, let's have some fun, but I like to do a lot of goalie specific stuff. So obviously every kind of ball that we have here has different properties. A lacrosse ball is heavier. So when someone says to me, Mitch, I want to work on glove specific, I like a lacrosse ball because it's, number one, it's very bouncy, and number two, it's heavy, like a puck. So when we're doing drills into your glove using a racquetball or using a tennis ball, the weight's not the same as a lacrosse ball is. So I like to use something that's a little more weighted for that purpose. Just obviously be careful. Lacrosse balls, if they hit you, they're gonna hurt. So just be a little careful with that. If we're looking for quick reaction time, I love using racquetballs. Obviously, they're a lot bouncier than a tennis ball. So grab the racquetball for that. What do I like tennis balls for? I love tennis balls when we're doing drills where you're bouncing the ball off the ground and we have to react to attack it, because you're not going to get that bounce that you would with a racquetball or a lacrosse ball. So those are the basic kind of balls that we have at home. For stick handling, you want to use a golf ball. Those are great as well. The other two things that I've been using a lot of, and you've probably seen the one I just mentioned in the giveaway, so we'll talk about that, is the vector ball. It's designed for baseball, obviously. It looks like a baseball. I've actually talked to the guy. I wanted to see if he would do a hockey puck. He doesn't think the interest is there. I'm going to keep working on it, though. But anyway, the point of the vector ball is every time it hits a surface, it changes color. So what I really like doing with this is adding that cognitive element to it by calling out a color as I catch it, or when it bounces, or when I'm stick handling. Stick handling with this is awesome, because you're trying to look out of the play, and you're trying with your peripheral vision looking down, seeing that puck is at your feet. Now you can call it a color as it changes color. I do a lot of drills with this. The other thing I like using, you've probably seen me use, these are Hiko sticks. These are soft, so you don't have to worry about them hurting anyone when you're catching them. The object of the Hiko stick, again, is we're adding a cognitive element to it by having to call it a color when you're catching. Ideally, if you have a partner throwing, he's going to throw it to you, he's going to call it the color, and you're going to catch that leg. It's not as easy as it looks, and if it is that easy, then spin it a little more and it'll become more challenging. So as we're tracking, as if I'm calling out yellow, I'm really making sure I'm catching yellow and not catching black or catching white or catching it in the middle. If you're doing it on your own, then you can simply do a drill where if you start with white, you're going to catch the next one black, toss it up, and the next one back, you're going to do yellow. Oop, bad hands by me. So this is a great tool as well. And both these are under 30 bucks. So they're inexpensive, and I'm doing a ton of drills with them. If you're looking for ideas, check out my Instagram. Next week, I'm going to talk about the Switched On app, which I use in conjunction with these two things. So we'll kind of go from there. I see we have a couple of questions, so I'm going to stop my yammering for a second. Darren Carter, you bought the vector ball this week. That's awesome. Like I said, I love mine. I actually have 5 of them. You can do a lot of different drills with them. Charles Antoine, where can you buy the vector ball? Go to the vector ball website. You can go to the vector ball website for that. Just Google vector ball and you'll find that. Let's see. Quentin Miller found. Well, Quentin Miller said he thinks he found the definition, but Jacob says he did find it. And El Dilworth said they DM'd it. I don't know. We'll figure. Quentin Miller put it on his story, which is what the requirement was. So,
there it is.
Quentin, I got to give it to you, bud. I got to give it to you. So, DM me your address, and we'll get that out to you. Let's see here. Oh, everyone's got me too. Oh, geez. There will be another contest. Don't worry. I got some things up my sleeve. Don't worry. Let's see here. Laurent, I'm going to put this question to you from Rhino because he's not going to listen to me anyway. Since we don't have ice, what are good exercises that can help to make our stance narrower? Why don't you hop in on that, and then Brandon, why don't you give your 2 cents on that?
For sure. You know what? Your dad's skating sessions could definitely help you. He's gonna like that response for sure.
He hates that response.
Yeah.
If I could see his hair, if he would get his hair out of his eyes, maybe I could see his reaction. But I know what his reaction is.
Yeah. But no, honestly, I mean, you could definitely try to just do basic skating movements that you would do on the ice. For sure, like you can't do a T push and whatnot. But I've seen a few guys now try and use rollerblades. So maybe that could help you. If you don't have ice, I think that's one of the best things you could do, right? So either, use rollerblades and try to do some basic movements, or you could try just on foot, and basically in the movements you would focus on your narrow stance. And now narrow stance is not necessarily like your legs. We had talked about that as well when you came out, but it's not. It's never the same thing for everybody. It's different for everybody, and I think, again, like the guys that, I've coached here kind of know the trick. You just jump up and then your legs would come back in a width that you would be comfortable with. And I mean,
ironic, we did a jumping drill today. Yeah,
exactly. We did a jumping drill today, right? So that's a good thing that you would do. Thing is, I'm not an expert, in the off ice thing. I like to do the workouts. I mean, again, like the guys that I train know I like doing it. You know what you could try as well? Jump rope. Jump rope is great. Do a lot of jump rope. Again, I see a few smiles here because guys love jump rope over here. But
can't do that with a wide stance.
Yeah, you know what? Well, you could try. We do wides. We call it wides here, but we do wides as well. And but jump rope is one of the best things for you. I mean, it works on your whole body. It's a whole body workout. So a lot of jump rope is going to help you with that as well. And you know what? If you want to give yourself a challenge, try doing the jump rope and your goalie movements at the same time. Oh God, huh? It's a challenge.
Brandon, what do you think? What can we do off ice? And not many of us are lucky enough to have what I have, which is in my basement at my home. Not everyone has synthetic ice at home. So what can someone do who needs to get a narrower stance or needs to adjust their stance in general? What do you think they could do at home during these times?
That's a good question. I mean, the 2 things I would say, I like Laurent's answer for sure. The 2 things I would say would be just whenever you're doing your drills with your coaches or whoever your off ice people are, is try to mimic the stance you want in the drills you're doing at home, first of all. That's the first thing. But the second thing is, I'll just echo what he said first was, if you really want to find a specific thing to get a specific goal, like in your stance, whatever it may be, it's really important to find someone who's an expert in the off-ice stuff, right? Because you have the experts in the on-ice stuff, the experts in the mental stuff, and then the experts in the off-ice stuff. And I will always and have always recommended Maria Mountain, just because she's the best at what she does. So if you take that question and fire it off to her, I'm confident that you'll get a perfect answer with something that you can do that's a little more specific, coming from an expert in that field. So that's the best answer I can give you for sure.
That's a good one. What I'll throw out there is, yes, we don't have ice, but we have our feet, we have mirrors. Get in front of a mirror, kind of take a look. I mean, I know, Rhino specifically, and I'm sure others too, you have video of your games or of drills or whatnot. Take a look at the video and then go in a mirror and try to imitate that stance. And then say to yourself, is this too wide? I'm a big believer in, even on ice, where, if I see a goalie who's too wide or his hands are out too far, not out far enough, I'll bring him over to the glass and say, listen, you have a mirror on the ice at all times. If you think that, your stance is too wide, stance is too narrow, if you think that your hands are too far back, too far forward, take a look in the mirror. You have it there. Use it. You have a second when you're getting water. Say, you know what? I'm going to take a look at my stance. And I do this with my college guys. So it's not just even young guys. I mean, even with the older guys who are trying to make adjustments, and we're always trying to make adjustments. I mean, there was a piece last year about how Carey Price has narrowed his stance, how Pekka Rinne narrowed his stance. So, I mean, even at the highest levels, we're always trying to be the best we can be, and we have to keep making adjustments. So you have a mirror at home, certainly, and like I said, there's always mirrors on the ice. It's called the glass. I have another question. Charles Antoine asking about ball pitchers. I bought one on that In Goal showcased. Brandon, why don't you take this one first?
Yeah, sure. So the ball pitchers, that would be just your machine that's throwing out the balls, right, for tracking? That's what you mean, yeah.
Did you see the piece on In Goal that In Goal did on they did the skills pitching machine? I think that Jake Allen used it, and Alfie Michaud up at University of Maine has been using it. Yeah.
So I'm actually good friends with Jake Allen's goalie coach. He's from New Brunswick as well. And he loves the ball pitcher, I believe. So I'm definitely a fan of that. It's awesome, really cool tool. The thing to remember is, and just because I think we should all be critical and think about the different intricacies of it, but the thing that you don't get from a ball pitcher is the stick blade experience and the shooter, right? Which is, you can't get that anywhere unless you're playing, you have a partner in the room, or unless you're on the ice. But just to remember and to be critical about everything you're doing, that piece is kind of missing. So the piece about reading the stick blade and getting a little bit of anticipation might be missing. It's a purely reactive drill, but it's an awesome reactive tool that I really, really, really like. I've used them before for sure. And I know a lot of people that use them. So yeah, long answer short, definitely really cool, huge supporter of it. But always think about how you could make it, what's different about it, or how you could make it better, and what you might be able to do to transfer it more to the ice.
Laurent, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely going to help you with hand-eye. There's no doubt about that. Your hand-eye is definitely going to get better if you use that kind of machine, right? It's kind of like a puck shooting machine, like some guys that have, that the money to buy, so some machines like this, they get synthetic ice in their garages and then get a puck shooting machine, and boom, they just get just get shot up for 30 minutes or whatever. So, but it for sure is going to help you with your hand-eye. I just think that your reads, kind of like with what IQ was talking about, your reads are not necessarily going to get, you're not necessarily going to get better in that aspect. But hand-eye is so important. So it's not not saying it's a bad thing. I was actually thinking about buying one for this place over here. So it's definitely a good thing. But again, you kind of like what IQ said, right? You can always find ways to make it better, to make your training aids better. So go out and find them.
Yep. So my answer is very simple. I've been using a pitching machine in the studio for almost 4 years now. Rhino knows very well that we have one. My thought on the specific one that they're using is, and you know what, I'm a pretty honest guy. I'm not a fan of it. I don't think that it's very robust. I did a lot of research 4 years ago when I bought my pitching machine for the studio. And that was one that I did look at. And I'm a big believer in you get what you pay for. It's a $50 item, and I'm not knocking. I mean, it's fine, but the maximum speed on it is only about 40 miles an hour. So I think, in my opinion, it has to be very close to you to make it really a challenge. The one thing I do like about it is that the ball does come from basically where a shot would be coming from, unlike a traditional pitching machine, which is going to be, at shoulder height. That being said, I'm going to introduce to you what I use in the studio. It's called the Jugs small ball pitching machine. This machine, as you can see, this is metal. It's pretty robust, but it is also $300. And like I said just earlier, a second ago, I haven't used this in any of my drills yet because I don't want you going to mom and dad saying, "Can you please buy me this pitching machine?" I'm in a unique situation that I'm a goalie coach, but I'm also a parent. So everything that I do comes from that perspective of both how can I benefit my students, but how can I also benefit the parents? And like I said, I don't necessarily want you to go say, "Hey, buy this $300 pitching machine." But that being said, what I really like about this machine is that it has 4 different options. The slow speed is 40. The highest speed is actually 75 miles an hour. It also has 2 curveball features. So that gives you that, a deflection, or that, a puck doesn't always go straight. Well, the curveball will do that as well. So I'm a bigger fan of that machine just because I'm using it for a professional use. One of the big things I like using it for is I use it for gut traps, especially with young goalies, because the balls are bouncy and small. It's really more of a challenge to really absorb that ball and not have a rebound. And I'll even do a simple drill where I'll put a puck, like, so let's say at the top of the crease, and I'll have a shooter. I'll shoot that ball, and if it bounces out, then they have to react to that puck and play the rebound out. So the long story short is, I like the concept of it. I just don't like that specific one because I just don't necessarily think it's really challenging enough for higher level goalies. That being said, Jake Allen used it, so what do I know, obviously. But like I said, I kind of like mine. I'm actually friends with Alfie Michaud. As soon as I saw that piece, I kind of sent it to him. So I don't know if University of Maine might start using that machine instead. I don't know. But like I said, I've been using one of these for 3-4 years now. I don't know how long Jake's been using it, but I've never seen another coach use it before I started using it. Not a big deal that I might be counting myself there. But anyway, so hey, you know what? You got to take credit where it's due, or even if it's not due, I'm taking it anyway. So the last question we have here is from Jacob. He's asking, and this is specifically for Brandon, does it cost money to see the articles on IQ Goalie?
Yes, it does. I think it's like $3.99 a month to get the subscription to the newsletter. If you send me a message on Instagram or whatever, I can give it to you for cheaper than that. And it depends if you go monthly, yearly, whatever. But there is a fee there. It costs, and I always tell everyone the fee's there because it costs money to read, and it costs money to have books and things like that, right? Anyone who reads knows that. That's why that's there. And yeah, if you guys if you're interested, just send me a message on Instagram, and I usually answer pretty quick.
It's a great resource. I've been reading it ever since he started it. I subscribe to it. I think there's some great stuff in there, and it just gives you that little of why. And I think there's so much that in goaltending and really anything you do, where it's you just go and do. And here, if you want to understand the science behind things, and I think it's important to understand the science behind things, I think it's definitely worth the investment.
For sure.
Thank you.
All right. We don't see that we have any more questions. So, Brandon, I'm going to throw it to you for some closing comments.
Yeah, no, thanks for popping on, guys. I think to me, I'm always impressed when people do things like this, whether you're a coach, the coaches that have put it on for you, or whether you're a goalie that shows up to listen to something like this. I think it means you're dedicated in what you do, especially on a Sunday afternoon. I don't know about you guys, but it's pretty sunny out here. So congratulations and kudos to you guys for doing that. And best of luck in all your future endeavors. And thanks to these guys for having me on.
Brandon, thanks for coming. I really appreciate it as the inaugural guest of the Coach Mitch and Laurent show. Laurent, any closing comments from you after? I mean, you want to comment a little bit on the bagger that you had a couple hours ago?
Okay, you really want to put it on me there, huh? Okay. It was a great back skate. I loved it. You should definitely come out and do it. If you have synthetic ice at home, do it. Get dressed. If not, do it on foot. But no, it was great. We've been doing it 2 weeks now.
Yep, second one.
Session. No, it's always great. We do, the Switched On app, which I think Mitch is going to talk about in next week, right?
Yeah, I'll talk about that next week for sure.
No, it's a great app, and I mean, definitely sign up for a session on Wednesday.
Wednesday, 5 o'clock. Yep. And Jacob asked the question: do you need synthetic ice? I mean, ideally, yes, but honestly, I mean, and Laurent, you can attest to this. We're not doing a ton where we're sliding. I think we did one sliding drill. Yeah. I'd recommend knee pads because we will do some butterflies or have a Bosu or something that's soft. But it's a matter of the movements that we're doing and just getting together, on Zoom like this, with the goalie community for 45 minutes to an hour and just kind of getting your escape. I mean, you don't get that escape like we've been getting with the ice. The ice is always an escape for me as a coach. I'm sure for you as players. It's going to be that escape for 45 minutes or an hour where, you can say, okay, I'm back in goalie mode and we're going to work on this and we're going to work on that. So yes, absolutely. And like I said, go to that registration link in my bio and we'll be there for sure.
Oh, I got a question in French now. So the ice I bought from a guy in Ontario, it's called Endure Sports, and the ice is Quick Rinks. So Endure Sports is a distributor, and Quick Rinks is basically the company that makes the ice.
There you go.
So that's that for you.
Awesome.
I think we got to find a name for this show now.
Right?
Yeah, we got to find the name now.
Do we have a contest for that?
Yeah, we could for sure. Let's do it.
All right.
I think we're gonna get a lot of jokes as answers. It'll be fun.
So maybe we'll put together we'll put together a post out there for a naming contest for this. Like I said, Brandon, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it. Charles Antoine, will there be more memes like this? Yes, there will. The timing is going to change possibly. It may not be at 3:30. We may be pushing this to later in the day. That's to be determined. But we'll definitely have one on Wednesday. The Goalie Doctor, Matt Tendler, who's the president and owner of Goalie Doctor, we hold one every Tuesday at 4 o'clock. Again, if you go to my profile, the scheduling link is on that. Sign up for that for Zoom. This week, I'll give you a sneak preview. Our special guest is former NHL goalie Mark Technische. He was a draft pick, 5th-round draft pick of Nashville Predators. He set numerous records at Colgate University. He finished his career actually here in Philadelphia with Lehigh Valley and with Reading. Great guy. He now has his own personal training. So he's going to talk about functional mobility and stretching on Tuesday at 4 o'clock. So sign up for that. But yes, there will be future ones. I said, Laurent and I definitely will be doing them on Sunday. We just don't know what time. In the meantime, I want to thank everyone for coming out. it was fun. We're going to get this posted. This will be posted on the Goalie Doctor YouTube page. So if you want to go back and get some laughs, because I thought we had some fun today. Kind of a clean spit and chicklets kind of thing. We kept it PG-13. So goalies, thank you very much. During this time, just stay active, social distancing and all that stuff, but really stay active, keep your mind active, keep your body active, keep into a routine so that when we step back on the ice, we're just going to go crush it. I know we all are. So everyone enjoy your Sunday. Laurent, I will see you next week. Brandon, I'll see you on the gram, and I'll see all of you on Instagram as well. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.